hit the subscribe button and the notification bell right now so you never miss an episode of Operation Truth. Send us an email, ask your questions, and very possibly we'll address your question on the air.
Operation Truth, the show they don't want you to see. Now, here's your host, Lou.
This is Operation Truth. My name is Lou Palumbo. With me today, as always, is the co-host Tom Fuentes. Just to remind everyone, Tom is a former assistant director of the FBI. We both want to thank you for your calling in, your listening, your participation. We're trying to get more and more people on this bandwagon with us. We need to change the course of this country, and we need to change the conversation. We need to reinfuse civility, decency, respect. You can contact us through operationtruthofficial@gmail.com. Please tell your friends, your family, anyone that you can, plug into this. We're trying to course correct the country. We're not trying to divide the country. We're not taking political sides. If you listen to Tom and myself, we don't have this political attachment to the Democrats or the Republicans. We have an attachment to the truth. The truth will get us through this thing. I want to start out by saying to you, if you're not concerned and you're living in America, then you're missing the boat here. You know, you've got to pick your head up from those things that distract you, your children, your bills, your disposable income that's dwindled, the increased prices of commodities like eggs and chicken and gasoline, which is up over $2 a gallon from what I paid over 2 years ago. You have to be part of this conversation, guys. Your borders are in trouble. Your major cities are in trouble. Your economy is in trouble. We've spent so much money that we're not going to be able to pay it back. We're at $32 trillion deficit right now. You know, our foreign policies are just shameful. I don't know what everyone is thinking, but, you know, that's tragically the sad element in this is the convoluted nature of our foreign policies. And everything driving this dysfunction, believe this or not, is money. You know, what I've come to learn about America is it has a price tag attached to it. And we're even, how would you say, more attached to money than we are the safety of our children. You know, I continuously listen to people, you know, talk about these topics with me. But when it comes to the end of the day, the thing that drives them most is money. As long as I don't put my hand in your pocket, you're okay. In any case, one last note, Robert F. Kennedy, since Fox has not afforded him any more airtime, at least in the past week, he's left the airwaves. He's a Democrat, guys. Where's MSNBC? Where's CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS? I don't understand this subversive maneuvering to suppress someone who is a viable candidate, someone that should be listened. You know, one thing I live by is I never invalidate anybody's ideas or their thoughts or their feelings, especially if you have a relationship with a woman or whoever your significant other is. Don't invalidate their feelings. It's a big mistake. In any case, guys, I'm going to bring Tom Fuentes in, and I want to start the conversation with Tom today to clear up some confusion about the special counsel. I brushed on it last episode. I want to continue with this conversation with Tom right now, and he can give you a little insight as to the special counsel that's just been appointed by Merrick Garland, a gentleman by the name of Weiss. Tom, if you would.
Thanks, Lou. You know, Friday afternoon when Merrick Garland had his press conference and announced that he was creating the special counsel position and appointing David Weiss to that position, I was driving in my car, practically crashed my car because I was thinking, wow, that Garland is a devious but brilliant SOB. What a shrewd move. You take a guy that's been investigating Hunter Biden for 5 years. You take a guy that credible whistleblowers, IRS supervisors with 14 or more years experience running these kind of investigations have said Weiss obstructed them at every turn. They wanted to interview Biden family members. They were restricted. When the email that went out where Hunter is, or a phone call, Hunter is telling the contributors, you know, of the illegal money, that, oh, my father's sitting right next to me and he's, you know, you don't want to make him mad. Look out if you do, and all of that. And so they wanted to do follow-up investigation. Was Joe Biden sitting next to Hunter Biden or not? Because they know Joe Biden carries a burner phone, which is not government issued, but they could subpoena those records for that phone and determine if he was exactly in the place that Hunter Biden was. They were refused the ability to do that. Now, it's funny also, divert a second, the technology, the geocaching technology, the Democrats blasted that technology. Oh, that's worthless. It doesn't exist. That's a lie. When it came to the Dinesh D'Souza movie, 2000 Mules. Oh, no, they can't track those phones. Oh, no, that's impossible. Well, guess what? The 1,000 defendants in the January 6th invasion or insurrection of the Capitol, they were tracked by that exact same technology. You don't hear any Democrats saying, oh, no, that technology is no good, because a lot of the people that were charged by the federal government with being part of that insurrection, the geocaching technology showed they never even entered the building. They were out in the protest area where everybody else was, and somehow they end up as defendants in the January 6th case. So this kind of stuff, getting back to the Biden investigation, the investigators, following each step that you would normally follow, and I've investigated hundreds of similar cases, corruption, organized crime, those type of cases, and the investigators are saying, okay, the next logical step would be to get the record. Was Biden sitting next to his son or not? The next step would be, let's bring in family members and say, what did you do for the Ukraine to pay you millions of dollars? The grandchildren, the ex-wives, you name it, all got millions of dollars put in their accounts by members, Ukrainian officials. That would be the next, every step that would be the next logical step, they were prohibited by Weiss. Then you have the statute of limitations. The most serious tax allegations against Hunter Biden go back to 2014, 2015. He's getting all of this money, corrupt money, but he's getting it, files no income tax, you have tax evasion and nothing. Weiss slow walks the case so that you have the statute of limitations runs out on the felony charges. Oh, I guess all we have now is that, the misdemeanor charges, or on the gun charge against Biden, that he lied on the application, the federal firearm application, which is a serious crime. Well, we'll just give him what's called pretrial diversion, which basically means if he's a good boy the next 2 years, the charges are dropped. So you have, as has been described, the sweetheart plea agreement between the prosecution, Weiss, and Hunter's attorneys. And it is so off the chart wrong that it blows up when they go before the judge. And the judge, normally, every case I've ever seen, my 30 years in the FBI, dealing with these kind of cases, pretrial diversions or plea agreement by prosecutors and defense attorneys, I've never heard of a case where the judge said, I'm not going to accept this plea. You got to go back to the drawing board. This isn't right, which happened in this case. So now you have, going back to this past Friday, you have Merrick Garland appoint the very prosecutor who has bungled this case from day one, slow walked it, didn't charge the right charges, let statute of limitations run out, lie to his staff in meetings that they were having, the IRS investigators, FBI investigators, all of that. So from Merrick Garland's standpoint, this guy's been obstructing the Biden case all along. He's the perfect guy to stay in that role, obstruct it further. And then by naming him a special prosecutor, the idea is the special prosecutor, when subpoenaed by Comer or Jim Jordan on the House to come in and testify to their committees about what's going on, pending investigation, I can't come in, I can't talk about it, we're not going to talk about it. So that's the problem here, is that you've put somebody in charge of the case that's been obstructing it for 5 years and giving him even more authority to obstruct further.
Tom, one thing that I have a question about is this thing called peer review. I don't understand why the Republicans aren't moving to have him sanctioned because of the manner in which he handled the initial Hunter Biden case from its outset, which you clearly defined the deficiencies. And I know what the peer review does. It brings you under scrutiny. Why aren't the Republicans requesting peer review? Why aren't they attempting to employ some mechanism to impugn his credibility and character more than they are? Like, is there room to criminally prosecute, for example? There's other questions I think need to be asked and answered regarding the activities. These are attorneys, right? You know the system like I do, Tom. Why isn't this being pursued? I don't understand that. We're not even talking about incompetence. It's two steps behind incompetence. I mean, if you were stupid and you did this, I could understand it. That's not what's happening here, Tom. This is orchestrated. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And Garland picks the perfect time. Congress is out of session for another couple of weeks till the, second or third week of September. So he figures they're not in Washington to be able to even complain about it. McCarthy had talked about, the Speaker of the House of Representatives had talked about, well, we're going to look at possibly having an impeachment inquiry, but he's given no definite time frame other than when the House is back in session next month in September. So everything has kind of been, put on hold or backburnered or whatever it is. And, Garland goes ahead and makes this move with David Weiss. Now, I think for all the negativity about it, and what's interesting, by the way, surfing YouTube and other platforms Friday night, Saturday, you have a number of people that misconstrue what Garland said and what the outcome of this is, saying the Attorney General is cracking down on the Bidens. He's named a special prosecutor to go after the Biden. You hear this whole liberal left-wing nonsense, when in fact what Garland has done is come up with the perfect scheme in his mind to delay and obstruct any further investigation of the Bidens. Now, the problem is it's going to backfire in the long run, but it depends how long the long run is, because now that there's no excuse for David Weiss, he's been told now you could prosecute in Los Angeles, you could prosecute in Washington, you can go where you want, take your time, bring any charges you want. You don't have to ask permission from other United States attorneys in the country. You can go forward with this. Now it's going to be the excuse when he doesn't. So he's bought several months' time probably to stall the case again, continue to stall it and obstruct it. But in the long run, they're not going to be able to do this for the long run.
It's so sad, because every direction you turn when you look at this country and the way we're operating it, whether it's pursuing a prosecution or managing the border or managing a city or economy, our energy sector, our foreign policy, we're falling on our face. And I hate to say it, but the commonality to this is Democrats. And I'm not anti-Democrat. I said in the last show or one of the prior episodes, I voted for Barack Obama in 2008. Reason being, they picked Sarah Palin. I didn't believe she was ready for prime time. I watched the interview with Katie Couric, where she did not, in an orchestrated manner, dismantle her. She just exposed her that she wasn't ready. We could talk about Kamala Harris, but let's stay on topic for a moment. But this is, we're just faltering. And, we're a conservative country. The reason I say that comfortably is because the number one rated 24-hour news network is Fox, right? But these people all have to get off their haunches and get out and become part of this discussion, which is what we're asking them to do here, which is why I tell you, email us at operationtruthofficial@gmail.com. Please become part of this conversation. We could talk about these topics ad infinitum. We need to start to fix all of this also before we lose the country. I keep asking, who is supposed to be the beneficiary of 10 million people illegally accessing this country since this administration started? I'm just curious. In fact, ladies and gentlemen, Democrats, Massachusetts governor, young lady, calling state of emergency, migrant-driven. Eric Adams flat out saying, we can't afford them. They're projecting $12 billion that they're going to lose. And by the way, Eric Adams, who I'm not, I'm lukewarm about him at best, to be candid with you, but I give him credit where due. He called out the president, as other Democrat elected officials have, regarding this border policy. What's happening in your cities, and Tom is watching the same thing we're watching. You're finally getting some pushback from residents, business owners, etc., because these cities are so unsafe. They're telling you at nighttime, don't go out in San Francisco. In any case, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back to Tom. We're going to continue to pursue some of these topics. Tom will give you some insight and experience. And, you know, just very quickly before we go to this break, a few episodes ago, we were creating a chronology of credibility where we lost it, starting with the Kennedy administration and his assassination, which was the first time, you know, we started to realize there's trouble in paradise, guys. And to put it to you politely, there's trouble in paradise, but it started this awareness, created this awareness that we were speaking to this. And I think we got into the 2000s, perhaps around George W. Bush's administration. At some point, guys, we're going to go back to that discussion because it's highly relevant. You know, I want to go to break and I want to come back and finish what I'm about to say about Barack Obama, because this very well-spoken young man is the reason why we're living the way we are today. He wanted to redefine America. He was in big support of all this progressive movement. And look at what the fallout is. We'll be right back, guys. Just stay with us. I'm going to bring you back with Tom, the co-host. We'll be with you in a second. Stay with us.
The world is in crisis, with political unrest and financially unstable countries trying to print their way to prosperity by taking on trillions of dollars of new debt. It's incredibly concerning. That's why you need to own silver as a hedge. So call today to receive the free hard asset information kit on how easy it is to own silver. Green energy demands will possibly turbocharge silver prices to 50, 100, even 300 an ounce, according to many experts around the world. Silver is a proven hedge against inflation. Since 1971, silver has returned over 11% when averaged yearly. Silver is a proven wealth preservation for hundreds of years. Hard Asset Management is a trusted leader in precious metals and rare coins for nearly 40 years. We have the guaranteed lowest prices, fast and easy ordering, expedited shipping, with award-winning customer service available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. CST, Monday through Friday. So protect yourself from the chaos. Invest in stability with Hard Asset Management. Call now and get your free Hard Asset Management information kit on how easy it is for you to own silver. 844-426-4653. 844-426-4653.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. And Tom Fuentes is with us again, the co-host. And we're going to get into a topic that is one of my favorites that I constantly remind everyone. You have to pay attention. What's going on in the media? The media are pitting us against each other. They are unknowingly supplying you information that they know is not truthful or accurate. You take areas like gun control, mass shootings, where they like to make you think it's a gun. It's not. We have a mental health problem in the country, and we have a failed parenting issue. The media is literally creating your narrative and your optic. And so, Tom, I want you to give me a little insight, because you and I both have brushed up against the media, both working for them. I worked for them with security, believe it or not. I've worked for a lot of these media outlets, and I did quite a number of interviews. Tom was a regular on CNN for a long time. Give us your point of view on this, Tom.
Well, I think, Lou, that, let's go back a couple hundred years. The founding fathers indicated that the democracy will work if the voters have a degree of information that they're going to need to cast a vote that will be appropriate for the country or helpful for the country. Now, that's all well and good, but over the years, in the last couple of years now, you have the media go from being a little bit liberal, a little bit left-wing, to going, for many of the channels, just going right over the top. And, and if you look at many of the mainstream media channels, they don't cover these stories. And if they do, they don't cover it in depth. You've talked about the 24-hour news cycle and all of that. Well, the problem with that is I was a CNN contributor for 10 years, and I became their senior law enforcement advisor my last couple of years. And I left CNN in 2019. And I can tell you, noticeable change, especially after Donald Trump became a candidate, much less president, of them trying to restrict the narrative and make Trump look stupid and make other people look smarter and better and all of that. And it was very difficult because, when you would go on the air, they'd ask a complex question, and I knew I had maybe 90 seconds to answer it, because then they would come, if I started going into a more detailed explanation, like I try to do here with some of the historical relevance of these issues, I'd immediately, the director would come in the ear, wrap, that's enough. And the rule was, if the director said wrap and you were mid-sentence, okay, you could finish that sentence and then shut up. And I started to experience that to a much greater extent, to the point where one of the anchors said to me, "You're just a Trump guy." And I said, "No, I'm a truth guy. Why don't you try that?" And so to be part of a podcast named Operation Truth, to me means something, that we need the truth to go out. The voters need to be educated truthfully. And they don't have to be, liberal or conservative. Give both sides, but give them fairly and put the context out there fairly for people to make up their mind. And we don't have that.
Tom, the truth will be the light in our tunnel if we can just embrace it, because we're so far away from that concept. It's disturbing, and it is incumbent upon the American populace to become part of this fix. I want to say something to everyone about Donald Trump that is true. If the Republicans and the Democrats had been doing their job, there would be no Donald Trump, number one. Number two, as far as time on Earth, Tom is just one day older than I am, ironically. But we were both around during the Kennedy administration where, we bumped into expressions like the silent majority. Right, Tom? I never saw the silent majority, not through the 60s, not through the 70s.
Yeah, that came up during the Nixon administration. Spiro Agnew talking about the silent majority is going to, vote for Nixon, and they did.
Well, but look what the silent majority did with Trump is where I'm really going with this, Tom. He really tapped into the silent majority, and I understand what you're saying, and I agree with what you're saying, but not on the scale that Trump did. Now, maybe there's a correlation to the fact that the population of the country in 1970, for example, was 200 million. We're now bumping to 360 easily, which begs another question. Do we have a certificate of occupancy on the country? Or are you hell-bent on creating India and China? I don't understand what everybody's thinking about in this country. But the point I make, Tom, is that there's a massive credibility issue with the media. I think you'll agree with that. What's so interesting is we're living in a time where we are selectively reporting news to the public. I watched, for example, the censorship hearings with Robert F. Kennedy. And I have a propensity to go from Fox to MSNBC to CNN, MSNBC, back and forth. The only people covering it have been Fox. The only media outlet that's created a forum for Robert Kennedy to speak is Fox. What's going on with the other two? I mean, is he not a Democrat enough for you? Or are you so married to this Biden, who, by the way, will be 82 if he's sworn in for a second term? I go, guys, are you kidding me here? I don't understand where everybody thinks this is going to end up. I keep asking a question. What's the end game here? Are we actively pursuing the destruction, the destabilization of our society? The answer may be yes. Who's leading the charge? The media, Tom. You agree?
Agree.
So
right.
Funny thing happens to Donald Trump now. And I don't have a problem with the court's ruling. He should be careful about what he says. Why shouldn't that apply to the media? They can say whatever they want, whenever they want. They do nothing but blatantly lie to you and intentionally mislead you as to the circumstances revolving around incidents. I'll give you an example. Mass shootings. They would love to make you think that after a piece of equipment being in this society for over 200 years, it suddenly changed. No, it didn't change after Columbine, April 29th of 1999. The culture changed. We lost a generation of children. We don't speak about that, by the way, guys. We're openly critical about these children, X, Z. We like to brand them. You know what I'd like you to give some thought about? These children have known nothing but distrust of their government, distrust of their media. We've compromised the integrity and the honor of our lead investigative mechanism, our lead law enforcement agency, the FBI. We've dismantled your law enforcement in their lifetime. It's all they've known. Tom and I lived in a different America. We never questioned the government's legitimacy, its honor, its integrity, its trustworthiness. The media wasn't like this. It wasn't a 24-hour news cycle where they're so hell-bent on entertaining you, they'll say anything to get viewership, no matter how obtuse it might be. So, Tom, I really am concerned about the media. I find it interesting that this judge just came out recently and said Donald Trump has a First Amendment right, but even that has limitations. Correct, Tom?
Yeah.
We heard it right?
We'll see what the interpretation is and whether Trump's attorneys, can countersue and get that more correctly resolved to be consistent with the Constitution and the First Amendment. But, a bigger example to me of media bias is if you go back to the riots that hurt thousands of people, destroyed billions of dollars in stuff after the George Floyd incident in Minnesota, the media, you saw anchors or reporters in Minnesota standing on the street, buildings behind them fully engulfed in flame, but that was mostly peaceful protesters. Nobody could call it a riot. You couldn't say, anything, a couple hundred people walk into the Capitol, it's an insurrection, it's the worst thing since Pearl Harbor, and you name it. But the stuff we saw in all of our cities all summer long, courthouses, police stations destroyed, police officers injured, Secret Service agents and officers injured outside the White House. Those are peaceful protests.
Tom, we're bouncing a little bit today, but it's kind of fun because you know what happens? All of these issues we're talking about, whether it's the media, whether it's this new appointee, Weiss, Hunter Biden, this all intersects with the losing of the country. It's just absolutely incredible. Tom, there was another thing I wanted to ask you about. It just slipped my mind, nothing unusual. But, when you were talking about CNN, I'd like to remind everyone that when Bernie Sanders was engaged in primary debates with Hillary Clinton, that the DNC twice, via Wasserman Schultz, concerned about anti-Semitism, bit of irony with her, another discussion, they twice leaked the questions to Hillary in advance. This was CNN. Am I right, Tom? And Donna Brazile lost her job. Okay. Right. These are the people that you're supposed to be following, and you should believe they're going to give you credible information. I go back and say this about Donald Trump. The judge said there were limitations even to the First Amendment that applied to him. Why don't they apply to the media? Why is it that if remember when we were talking about a year or so ago about the police, the woman that was going to, verify legitimacy and everything, what you said, suddenly that went away. You know why, guys? Because nobody's lying to you on a more regular basis than Democrats. And I don't find pleasure or comfort in saying that to you. It's the truth. I don't know what happened to this political entity. We need a healthy Democrat Party. We need a healthy Republican Party. By the way, guys, I think both of them are a little slippery. Right now, we're down to voting for or choosing the lesser of evils, so to speak. But we're going to take a quick break, guys, and I want to come back and I want to have a little bit of a discussion about the political and financial implications with people who may want to run as a third party. And I want to say something about Michael Bloomberg and the opportunity we had in the last election cycle to actually fund them. We'll be right back, guys. Stay with me.
Hard Asset Management is a trusted leader in precious metals and rare coins for nearly 40 years. We have the guaranteed lowest prices, fast and easy ordering, expedited shipping, with award-winning customer service available 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. CST, Monday through Friday. So protect yourself from the chaos. Invest in stability with Hard Asset Management. Call now and get your free Hard Asset Management information kit on how easy it is for you to own silver. 844-426-4653. 844-426-4653.
We're back, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I encourage you to become part of the conversation. You can email us at operationtruthofficial@gmail.com. Please don't take what we're saying lightly. We're doing this because we're gravely concerned about the future of our young people. Tom and I are out of the woods. We don't need to explain to you why, to be very candid with you. But we are. We crossed our threshold where we can kind of relax. We're both committed to try to get this country into a different level of alignment. And we're not trying to tell you who to vote for. I'm just trying to give you food for thought. Tom does more than that. I mean, what Tom tells you, even for myself, and I know him, through CNN and for a very long time, my mouth is agape most times I speak with him because of his knowledge. We want to brush up against this discussion, for example, just for a moment, if we may, about a third party run. And what I found interesting was that Michael Bloomberg, like him or not like him, spent about $500 million to basically get slapped around on the stage by an ABC journalist and Elizabeth Warren. He didn't get beat up once, he got beat up twice. The sad part of this discussion is he could have funded legitimately a third party, because that's one of the problems that pigeonholes a third party candidate. You've got to have the money. Now, people might say, and people have said something to me, why don't you run for office? Because I don't want to brush up against the Democrats or the Republicans. Neither one, to me, are totally committed to being part of the solution in regards to these problems we're faced with today. I want to be independent. We need a different approach and thought process. The problem is, where am I going to get the money? That's it in a nutshell. So I go to Bloomberg. Michael Bloomberg could have financed a third party. He still could, even based on the way he's allocated funding to fight, on behalf of gun control, which is just ill-conceived. Ladies and gentlemen, don't let me go off on a tangent about this thing with guns. But Tom, give me your viewpoint on this thing about third-party feasibility, political, financial implication.
Well, what you have to look at is who's the actual third-party candidate. So, is that candidate at this point in this election, would they take votes away from the Biden voters or from Trump voters? Who will have the advantage? The Harvard law professor or sociology professor that's running now against Joe Biden, he's going to take votes away from Joe Biden, and more importantly than votes, money, contributions. Now I hear analysts on TV saying that Robert Kennedy Jr. Running for office is actually going to take away money from the Trump campaign. So there's an advantage one way or the other, depending who's running and on what ticket they're running on, where, and we've seen this with third-party candidates over the last 20 or 30 years. So that'll depend. We'll have to wait and see who the candidates are and who they hurt the most in this campaign.
Have to agree, Tom. The sad part of this discussion is we need change, right? Barack Obama spoke about it. And by the way, guys, before our last break, I wanted to talk about Barack Obama, who everybody treats like the golden boy, who I voted for, by the way, did nothing for the minority community, insinuated himself into local police issues, first with his buddy, correct me if I'm wrong, Tom, in Boston, criticized and demeaned the police, then had to have him to the White House to have a beer. Then the biggest problem was this Ferguson with Michael Brown. They're still saying hands up, don't shoot, even after the minority community came in and established the fact that Michael was the aggressor. What did Barack Obama do? He dispatched Eric Holder. He pressured the governor. We want a quick indictment. How about we have a quick investigation, folks? I don't want to go off on Barack Obama. I'm just telling you the truth about this. Interestingly enough, the guy that did more for the minority community than Barack Obama was Donald Trump. But guys, I want to say something to you about everybody married to Donald Trump. I think there's a high likelihood that if in fact he would get into office, I think that our foreign adversaries would fear him again the way they did during his first administration. I think you'd see some alignment as far as gasoline prices and energy, things of that nature. But it's going to tear the country apart, guys. That's why I say time for him to step aside, a divider. Hillary Clinton, a divider. Mitch McConnell, can't figure out what the hell's going on with this guy. Pelosi's a divider. Poor Dianne Feinstein. You have to know when it's time to pass the torch. That's really what I'm talking about. And it doesn't have a political attachment. I'm not telling you who to vote for, guys. I'm saying come in out of the rain, see the forest for the trees. We have problems in this country, and they're going to intersect with your children's lives. Tom, as I did the last episode, sorry, I want to yield the last, segment of the show to your thoughts, some topic that near and dear to your heart that you're concerned about. I know you hear mine all the time. I want to give you an opportunity to speak, Tom.
Well, I think the idea that we need a third-party candidate, or who's a divider or who's a uniter and all of that kind of stuff, we've heard all of that kind of rhetoric, especially in the last campaign. Joe Biden was a uniter. Lunch Pail Joe is going to unite us all. And he's probably been as much, if not more, divisive than Barack Obama was, who was amazingly divisive during his administration. So I think that, that taking a look at all of these things, again, the Constitution was designed that the only real peaceful, effective way to change regimes is at the ballot box. But it requires that the votes are free, are honest, are legitimately counted. I'm from Chicago. The old saying in Chicago was vote early, vote often. And voter fraud there went way back. And I can remember as an agent in the 80s in the Chicago office, where about 2/3 of the agents in the office were sent to the different polling places in Cook County and in the city of Chicago to try to monitor that people weren't being intimidated when they went to vote, or, facing violence at the ballot box, any of that kind of stuff. Now, I didn't have to do that. I was exempt from that because I was running undercover cases and other cases, so I had to continue my investigations. But again, several hundred agents did that every time. Now, in the last couple of elections, you had the Attorney General, 2020, you have Bill Barr saying, oh, no, we don't, there's no voter fraud. We don't need investigation. We don't need the FBI to look at it. We don't need any of this stuff. And you look at that, and there's ample allegations. Like I said, I mentioned the movie 20,000 or 2,000 Mules, the Dinesh D'Souza movie. You watch that movie, and from my standpoint, knowing that technology to track cell phones is absolutely legitimate. I used it in investigations to save a kidnapping victim when I was in charge of the Indiana FBI office. And you have people discounting that, but now that's the principal technology they use to round up 1,000 people for January 6th. So it's funny that whatever side you're on, if that technology backs you up, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't matter. It's no good. And I think that's where the problem comes in, is we need the truth about different issues to be brought up and talked about without worrying that YouTube's going to shut you down, or Google or these other podcasts are going to be censored. And we've seen so much evidence of that kind of censorship, in the past, especially during COVID, more recent times. We've seen a lot of it.
I want to make a point also, so everyone's clear about Tom's agenda, my agenda. We're very like-minded in a lot of our thinking. We're not asking you to agree with us. We welcome your opinion. We're not looking for you to agree. We're looking for you to engage in a conversation with us with some civility and decency and respect. 3 adjectives that have left the discussion. We're not telling you just be spoon-fed by us, but understand this. These comments, these critiques, this information, this history is being presented to you for the purpose of educating you, number one, giving you food for thought, but to lead this country out of this darkness. Tom, just very quickly, because we're going to have to go in a second. The president's been compromised. If you're questioning that, I just say sit back and watch the show. But you know what else has compromised the president? And it compromises all of us at some point in time. It's time compromises us. If you think he is of the right mental acuity, if his cognitive skills are spot on to be the president, go vote for him, guys. You will reap what you've sown. I keep saying we need to pass the torch, not just Joe. McConnell, I believe we witnessed Mitch McConnell have a TIA during a conference where he's supposed to be giving a critique or some type of addressment. Then we're watching Dianne Feinstein having, I believe it was Nancy Pelosi's daughter, instructing her just say nay. Whose vote was that? Nancy Pelosi's daughter's, or was that Feinstein's? But the point I make, guys, and it's not politically driven. I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat. You got to know when to go. And just so you know something about me, I had to break ties with things myself that were big parts of my life. Something as silly as being a lifeguard. I worked at Jones Beach as a lifeguard for like 14, 15 years. It's like the embodiment of youth. Your prowess, your physical prowess. You're literally saving people's lives. That window of my life opened and it closed, and I had to pass the torch. Not everybody does that. Law enforcement, Tom will tell you the same thing. Very few people could outleg me. I was able to dunk at about 5'10". I don't know where I got it from. I could tell you and joke about it that I had a lot of black friends that could lead. Maybe they rubbed off on me. I grew up in a community. I was the only white family on the block. I joke about it. That window opened and closed, all your athletic prowess. It's about being able to go through life and pass the torch. I don't know why we don't have an amendment passed that says the following. You can't be the president before you're 35, and you can't be sworn in after 72. I'll give you 72 to 80. And guys, after that, you got to assume a different role. Become a mentor, right? Become inspirational. Do something other than exploiting your office. And guys, if you think the people that were elected, either side of the aisle, or 100% in your corner, you are grossly misled. You look at the wealth that some of them have amassed during their terms as elected officials. It's horrifying. Joe Biden is one of them. Nancy Pelosi. By the way, the Republicans do the same thing. So we're going to tell you the truth. The Republicans do the same thing. You know, this is about cleansing the system and getting us back on track. You guys have to pass this word, have people listen to what we're saying. It makes sense. It's common sense. It's logic. It's decency. It's civility. It's the truth. We don't have a political agenda. Our agenda is you. Our agenda are the young people in this country. You're all entitled to something better than this. Help us get you there. I want to close for today. As always, I want to thank Tom for his wisdom and his insight.
Lou, if I could add one thing before we close.
You certainly may, sir.
You know, you've been putting out that the viewers should, if they want to make comments about the show, they can send an email to operationtruthofficial@gmail.com. I just would like the viewers to know, you know, before we do these recordings of the podcast, we have a topics meeting. So all of us that are going to be involved in this production have a discussion. What kind of things should we talk about? You know, different issues that we should address during the podcast. One of the things, and today's topics meeting this morning is no exception, where emails from people that had come in were talked about. They were cited and read. You know, obviously a lot of people don't put their name, and it wasn't to put out anybody's name, but topics that came in from viewers by that email, we discussed it. That email, those emails were made known to us that these are what things are being said by the viewers. So, you know, don't feel like that email, if we're telling you to send in an email, is going down the drain. It's being used by us to evaluate what the viewers think of the show.
Very good point, Tom. Thank you for stating that. It's important that the viewer knows that. Guys, I want to say one other thing just in closing as well. You know, you guys hear me redundantly address topics, whether it's the border, your cities, your economy. I'm going to keep saying it until you get the memo. That's the value in redundancy. If you hear it enough times, you might latch on to it. If it gets in that ear and in your brain, you have to pay attention to what's going on in your country. I know you're distracted. We know they're exploiting the fact that you are, that you're worried about your kids, feeding them, educating them. You're worried about paying bills. I got the whole deal. I'm living it with you. But you got to take time out of your day and start to listen to what's going on and then become part of the solution, which I prefer to be voting, not violence. The direction that they're pushing the country is one in a violent direction. You just have to turn on the TV, guys. In any case, Tom, I'm going to close for today. I think you'll close with me, sir. Thank you for joining us. My pleasure, sir. I would encourage you, operationtruthofficial@gmail.com. Send us your thoughts. I know we're going to be enhancing the format of the show. You know, it's a lot of this is budget driven. We're not going to, misguide this thing. We want you guys to be able to call in at some point, ask us questions so we can give you some legitimate, truthful answers, which seems to be absent from everybody else who's doing what we're doing. By the way, I'm not here to entertain you. I have nothing against Joe Rogan. He's doing very well for himself. I'm not Joe Rogan, and I'm not here to make you laugh or to brush up on topics that have little or no relevancy. We're talking about things that are going to alter the history of this country, the future of this country. We'll see you next week, guys. Thank you for joining us. Thank you again, Tom. This has been Operation Truth. We encourage you to hit the subscribe button right now so you can listen to more podcasts of Operation Truth.
Send us an email, ask your questions, and very possibly we'll address your question on the air.